The ongoing build-up surrounding Jade Cargill's WrestleMania 42 matchup continues to generate significant interest among WWE fans, with teases and hints dropping regularly across programming. At the same time, developments involving Bianca Belair, the Wyatt Sicks faction, and other elements on Smackdown provide plenty of material to unpack. Starting with Bianca Belair, there has finally been a substantial update from the star herself regarding her prolonged absence due to a hand injury. Bianca Belair suffered the injury last April during WrestleMania 41 in a triple threat match that also involved Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. The injury specifically involved a broken knuckle in her hand, which occurred when Rhea landed awkwardly on it following a top rope spot. Initially, the plan was to allow the injury to heal naturally without immediate surgical intervention, with the hope that conservative treatment would suffice. Doctors estimated a recovery window of roughly 8 to 12 weeks if things progressed smoothly, but complications arose almost immediately. The break was in the knuckle joint itself, making it a more intricate and stubborn issue to resolve compared to a standard fracture. Over the months that followed, Bianca faced ongoing difficulties, including persistent pain, limited mobility, and setbacks in rehabilitation. The situation turned concerning because the original non-surgical approach failed to yield the expected results, leading to prolonged silence from both WWE and Bianca regarding her status. Fans grew increasingly worried as the months dragged on, with no clear timeline for her return and speculation about whether the injury might even threaten her in-ring future. For nearly a full year, the updates were sparse, creating an air of uncertainty. Bianca occasionally shared glimpses of her daily life on social media, but she avoided direct commentary on the injury until recently. That changed over the past weekend when she posted on her Instagram story, confirming that she was scheduled for finger surgery on February 16th. She included a simple message along with a praying emoji, signaling both the procedure's necessity and her optimism about moving forward. Reports indicate that this was a corrective surgery to address the complications from the initial break, as previous attempt at recovery had not fully restored function. Following the operation, Bianca quickly shared that she was already beginning work with hand therapists, showing a proactive approach to rehabilitation. This development marks a pivotal moment in her recovery journey. While the surgery represents progress, it also extends her time away from competition. Typical recovery periods for surgeries addressing broken knuckles or finger joint injuries vary widely depending on the severity, the patient's overall health, and how well the body responds to post-operative care. In many cases, patient can expect to resume light activities within a few weeks, but full clearance for high-impact activities like professional wrestling often takes longer, anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks, with some sources noting up to 4 months in more complicated scenarios. Given that Bianca's injury has already proven resistant to healing, the timeline could lean toward the longer end. Realistically, if everything goes smoothly from here, she might be looking at a return sometime in the spring or early summer of 2026, potentially positioning her for a strong comeback later in the year. The key positive is that this surgery removes the uncertainty that had lingered for so long. Bianca is now officially on a structured path to full recovery, and with the determination and the resources available through WWE's medical team, there's every reason to believe she will return stronger than before. Her absence has been felt across the women's division, as she remains one of the most dynamic and popular performers, known for her athleticism, strength, and charisma. Fans can take comfort in knowing that the road ahead, while still challenging, is clearer now than it has been in months. Shifting focus to the women's title picture on Smackdown, Jade Cargill's path to WrestleMania 42 remains a central storyline, with ongoing teases keeping the audience engaged. Jade currently holds a WWE Women's Championship and has been defending it impressively, but the question of who she will face at the Showcase of the Immortals hangs in the balance. A major factor in this equation is Liv Morgan, who won the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble and earned the right to challenge for either the Raw or SmackDown Women's title. Liv has been playing a masterful game of cat and mouse, flirting with both champions and refusing to commit publicly. This past week on SmackDown, during Jade Cargill's match against Jordynne Grace, a notable crossover appearance, Liv and Dominic Mysterio were at ringside enjoying a Valentine's Day-themed dinner setup. The segment added a layer of intrigue, as it kept Liv's intentions ambiguous while putting her directly in Jade's orbit. After Jade successfully defended her title, she approached Liv and delivered a pointed message that the championship spotlight could be hers if she chose Jade as a WrestleMania opponent. The confrontation was brief but charged, reinforcing the idea that WWE is deliberately prolonging the suspense to maximize viewer interest. WWE appears committed to keeping Liv's decision a mystery for as long as possible, though logic points towards certain outcomes. Many fans and observers believe she will ultimately select Stephanie Baker, the Women's World Champion on Raw. This matchup would deliver a classic heel versus babyface dynamic, with Liv's cunning and manipulative style clashing against Baker's more straightforward intensity. Reports suggest that a final announcement from Liv could come before the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event on February 28, allowing time to solidify the card and build anticipation. If Liv does opt for Baker, it would shift the focus on Smackdown to the Women's Elimination Chamber match determining Jade Cargill's WrestleMania challenger. The Chamber is shaping up to feature a stacked field of contenders, with several big names already qualified. So far, Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, and Alexa Bliss have secured their spots through qualifying matches. Tiffany earned her entry early by winning a triple threat on SmackDown, showcasing her rising star power. Rhea Ripley punched her ticket in a strong performance against Lara Valkyria and Ivy Nile, reminding everyone of her dominance. Alexa Bliss qualified by overcoming Julia and Zelina Vega, bringing her signature mind games to the mix. Additional qualifiers like Asuka have also been added in some updates, rounding out a formidable lineup. The winner of this chamber match will almost certainly earn the right to challenge Jade at WrestleMania 42, making the February 28th event a critical deadline for WWE to finalize plans. Adding to the intrigue, a subtle but meaningful teaser aired during the February 13th episode of Smackdown. Backstage, Rhea Ripley was with Io Sky when Jade Cargill approached them. The two powerhouses shared a brief but intense stare-down before Jade continued to the ring for her match. It was a short moment, but it carried weight, especially since Rhea's already in the chamber. If Rhea emerges victorious, a clash with Jade would pit two of the most physically imposing women in WWE against each other, promising a blockbuster encounter built on strength, athleticism, and star power. Other names like Tiffany Stratton have been discussed in reports as potential opponents, with creative reportedly considering multiple directions. Regardless of who wins the chamber, Jade will face a high-profile challenge at WrestleMania, ensuring a major match that could define the women's division for the year. Meanwhile, the Wyatt Sicks storyline has been simmering without much explosive progress, which has made it challenging to generate consistent excitement. The faction, led by Uncle Howdy and featuring members like Dexter Lumis, has been locked in a drawn-out feud with Solo Sikoa and his MFT group, often tied to remnants of the Bloodline narrative. This program has included tag team title exchanges, with MFT capturing the titles from the Wyatts earlier this year, and Solo stealing the iconic Wyatt Lantern, a family heirloom symbolizing the group's legacy. The feud has felt somewhat directionless at times, lacking the high-stakes moments that define the Wyatt family's past iterations. On the February 13th Smackdown, there were a couple of notable interactions that provided some fresh energy. After MFT won a large multi-man tag match, the Wyatts appeared in the stands, stalking Solo and his allies in eerie fashion. Later, Solo returned to his locker room to discover a chilling drawing of his own head incorporated into the Wyatt Lantern motif. This callback to Dexter Lumis' signature creepy artwork was a highlight, as it marked the return of a trait that had not been prominently featured since his 2022 feud with The Miz. Fans appreciated the nod, as it gave Dexter a moment to shine individually within the group dynamic. These small touches highlight the potential for the Wyatt Sicks to regain momentum by emphasizing each member's unique personality. Dexter's drawings add an unsettling psychological layer, while other elements like Uncle Howdy's enigmatic presence could be developed further. The feud with Solo and MFT shows no signs of concluding soon, primarily because MFT still possesses a stolen lantern. This prop is too central to the Wyatt lore to remain in enemy hands indefinitely, reclaiming it feels like an inevitable climax that must occur before the story can pivot elsewhere. Once that happens, the Wyatts could move on, but options appear limited. Major factions like Judgment Day are on Raw and dealing with internal chaos, making cross-brand collision unlikely in the immediate future. Rumors have persisted about Uncle Howdy transitioning to the mid-card scene, perhaps pursuing the United States Championship, but he has only had limited singles action since his return in 2024. Establishing him as a credible solo competitor would be necessary for that path to materialize. Overall, The Wyatt Sicks trajectory has been disappointing considering their explosive debut 2 years ago, which ranks among the most memorable in recent WWE history. That night promised a dark, compelling saga, yet subsequent booking has struggled to deliver consistent substance or direction. The current program, while featuring intriguing callbacks like the drawings, lacks the epic scope or payoff that could elevate it. It would be refreshing to see WWE invest more in meaningful arcs of the group, allowing their eerie atmosphere and individual talents to create something truly impactful again. These stories capture the current pulse of WWE's women's division and darker elements on Smackdown. Bianca's surgery update brings hope for her return. Jade's WrestleMania future hangs on key decisions in the Chamber outcome, and the Wyatts continue to lurk in the background with potential yet to be fully realized. The road to WrestleMania 42 is heating up, and these developments will undoubtedly shape what promises to be an exciting stretch of programming. The landscape of WWE programming on Smackdown continues to evolve with several compelling threads unfolding simultaneously, each carrying its own level of intrigue and long-term implications. Among the most prominent is the ongoing speculation and deliberate build-up surrounding Jade Cargill's WrestleMania 42 championship defense. As the reigning WWE Women's Champion, Jade has established herself as a dominant force since capturing the title, blending raw power, athletic grace, and an undeniable star aura that makes her matches must-see events. Yet the question that looms largest heading into the road to WrestleMania is simple but pivotal. Who will she face on the grandest stage of them all? WWE has masterfully kept the answer shrouded in mystery, dropping breadcrumbs across weekly shows, backstage segments, and social media to keep fans guessing and invested. A major piece of this puzzle centers on Liv Morgan, who earned the coveted Women's Royal Rumble victory earlier this year. Winning the Rumble grants the victor the right to challenge for either the Raw Women's World Championship or the SmackDown WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania, and Liv has played her cards with calculated patience. She has refused to commit publicly, instead teasing both title holders in a way that keeps the entire women's division on edge. This past Friday on Smackdown, during Jade Cargill's high-stakes title defense against the hard-hitting Jordynne Grace, who made a rare crossover appearance, the cameras frequently cut to ringside where Liv Morgan sat alongside Dominic Mysterio. The duo had set up an elaborate Valentine's Day dinner scene complete with candles, roses, and a tablecloth, creating a surreal juxtaposition against the intense in-ring action. The visual alone was striking, two people enjoying a romantic meal while a championship match unfolded mere feet away. It underscored Liv's confidence and her ability to insert herself into any spotlight she desires. When Jade emerged victorious after the dominant performance that included her signature jaded finisher, she wasted no time marching over to the barricade. Staring directly at Liv, she delivered a clear message. If Liv chose her for WrestleMania, that championship glow in the WrestleMania main event spotlight could belong to the former Rumble winner. The exchange was short, intense, and loaded with subtext. Liv smirked, raised a glass in a mock toast, and said nothing definitive, preserving the suspense. This segment perfectly encapsulates WWE's current strategy: prolong the drama, let the teasers accumulate, and allow fan speculation to build organic heat. Reports from multiple insiders indicate that creative is committed to stretching this decision out for several more weeks, likely until just before or during the build to the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event scheduled for February 28th. If Liv ultimately selects the Women's World Champion on Raw, widely believed to be Stephanie Vake at present, that would leave the SmackDown title picture wide open for the winner of the upcoming Women's Elimination Chamber match to become Jade Cargill's WrestleMania opponent. The Chamber match itself is shaping up to be one of the most stacked women's bouts in recent memory. Already qualified are several top-tier names that guarantee a high level of competition and star power. Tiffany Stratton punched her ticket early through a decisive triple threat victory, proving once again why she is considered one of the fastest rising stars in the company. Her blend of technical skill, arrogance, and athleticism makes her a credible threat to win the entire thing. Rhea Ripley, a perennial powerhouse and former champion, secured her spot in commanding fashion by overcoming Lyra Valkyria and Ivy Nile in a brutal qualifying match that showcased her raw strength and resilience. Alexa Bliss rounded out the early qualifiers by outlasting Julia and Zelina Vega, bringing her signature mind games, resilience, and unpredictable offense into the mix. Additional reports have hinted at further qualifiers being added in the coming weeks, potentially including Asuka, whose technical mastery and striking ability would add another dangerous dimension. The winner earns an automatic WrestleMania title shot against Jade, turning the February 28 Chamber into a de facto #1 contender bout with monumental stakes. Whoever emerges victorious will step into one of the biggest matches of the year against a champion who has yet to be truly tested at WrestleMania in this reign. Jade's physical dominance paired with the winner's unique style, whether Tiffany's flashiness, Rhea's brute force, Alexa's psychological warfare, or someone else's specialty, promises a clash of titans that could steal the show. Adding fuel to the fire was a subtle but telling backstage moment from a February 13th episode of Smackdown. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky were conversing in a quiet corridor when Jade Cargill approached. The two stood face-to-face for several long seconds, neither blinking, neither speaking, before Jade simply walked past to head to the ring for her scheduled match. The stare-down lasted only a handful of heartbeats, yet it carried the weight of a future WrestleMania poster. Rhea is already confirmed for the Chamber, meaning a victory that would make this brief encounter prophetic. A Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley WrestleMania match would pit two of the most physically imposing and athletically gifted women on the roster against one another. Both stand over 6 feet tall when accounting for boots. Both possess freakish strength, and both have the ability to deliver believable, hard-hitting action that feels larger than life. The visual alone, two Amazonian warriors colliding, would be a WrestleMania moment etched in history. Even if Rhea does not win the Chamber, other possibilities remain tantalizing. Tiffany Stratton versus Jade would contrast youthful bravado against established dominance. Alexa Bliss versus Jade could blend mind games with raw power in unpredictable ways. No matter the outcome, Jade is guaranteed a massive opponent at WrestleMania 42, which only heightens anticipation for how the story unfolds over the next several weeks. Meanwhile, on a very different corner of the SmackDown landscape, the Wyatt Sicks storyline has continued its slow, eerie burn without yet reaching the explosive peaks many hoped for following their unforgettable debut. The faction, centered around the enigmatic Uncle Howdy and featuring the likes of Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, Nikki Cross, and Eric Rowan, burst onto the scene with cinematic presentation, haunting vignettes, and a debut night that ranks among the most talked-about moments in modern WWE. Yet the follow-through has been inconsistent. Currently, the group remains entangled in protracted feud with Solo Sikoa and his ever-evolving MFT, often referred to in shorthand as the latest iteration of Bloodline-aligned forces. This rivalry has included tag team title changes, personal invasions, and symbolic thefts, but it has struggled to maintain consistent momentum or deliver satisfying payoffs. The February 13th SmackDown provided a couple of memorable beats that briefly rekindled interest. Following a dominant victory for MFT in a chaotic 10-man tag team match, the camera panned upward to the stands where the Wyatt Sicks stood motionless, silhouetted against the arena lights, simply watching Solo and his allies. The image was chilling, silent predators observing their prey from a distance. Later in the broadcast, Solo returned to his private locker room to find a disturbing piece of artwork waiting for him, a detailed, unsettling drawing that incorporated his own face into the iconic Wyatt lantern design. The moment immediately evoked memories of Dexter Lumis' signature creepy sketches from years past. During his earlier run, particularly in his 2022 storyline with The Miz, Dexter would leave these hand-drawn portraits for opponents, each one more unnerving than the last. Seeing that trait resurface within the Wyatt Sicks framework felt like a welcome callback and a small but meaningful way to spotlight one member's unique personality. Fans reacted positively online, appreciating the attention to detail and the effort to give individual members moments that highlight their quirks. Dexter's drawings add a psychological horror element that differentiates him from the rest of the group. If WWE continues this approach, giving Uncle Howdy enigmatic promos, letting Nikki Cross display her unhinged energy, allowing Eric Rowan to showcase brute force, and permitting Joe Gacy to weave his cult-like charisma, the faction could regain narrative traction. Right now, though, the feud remains anchored to the stolen Wyatt Lantern, a prop too sacred to the group's lore to remain in Solo Sikoa's possession permanently. Reclaiming it feels like a necessary chapter closure. Until that happens, the story seems destined to continue, potentially stretching into spring or beyond. Once the Lantern returns home, the next chapter becomes harder to predict. Major faction rivalries on SmackDown are limited, and cross-brand programs with groups like Judgment Day, currently imploding on Raw, seem improbable in the short term. There's been persistent backstage chatter about Uncle Howdy potentially stepping away from the group dynamic to pursue singles competition, possibly targeting the United States Championship. That rumor has circulated for months, yet Howdy has only competed in a handful of singles matches since his 2024 re-emergence. Building credibility in the mid-card will be essential before any title pursuit could feel legitimate. For now, the Wyatt Sicks remain locked in their current orbit, a group with immense potential that has yet to fully capitalize on the promise of their debut. Separately, the long-awaited update on Bianca Belair's recovery has finally arrived, bringing clarity to one of the most frustrating injury sagas in recent women's division history. Bianca suffered a broken knuckle in her hand during a triple threat match at WrestleMania 41 last April, when Rhea Ripley landed awkwardly across her fingers following a high-risk maneuver. The injury occurred in the knuckle joint itself, a notoriously difficult area to heal cleanly due to its complexity and constant use in wrestling. Initial medical advice suggested attempting non-surgical recovery, with an estimated timeline of 8 to 12 weeks assuming no complications. Unfortunately, complications arose almost immediately. Swelling persisted, mobility remained limited, pain lingered, and rehabilitation plateaus proved stubborn. For the better part of a year, Bianca largely stayed off the radar regarding her in-ring status. She posted family moments, training glimpses, and motivational content on social media, but avoided specifics about the hand. Speculation ranged from quiet retirement fears to hopes of a miraculous comeback. That silence ended this past weekend when Bianca took to her Instagram story with a straightforward update. She was scheduled for corrective finger surgery on February 16th. Accompanying the post was a simple praying hands emoji and a note indicating she was ready to move forward. Reports confirmed the procedure addressed lingering damage from the original break, realigning the joint and clearing scar tissue that had impeded progress. Post-surgery, Bianca has already begun working with specialized hand therapists, demonstrating her trademark work ethic. Recovery timelines for this type of surgery vary significantly. Minor cases allow light activity in 4 to 6 weeks, but full clearance for professional wrestling, requiring gripping, lifting, impact absorption, and high-speed maneuvers, typically ranges from 12 to 16 weeks, with more complicated cases stretching toward 4 months. Given the prolonged healing difficulties prior to surgery, the conservative estimate places Bianca's potential return window somewhere between late spring and midsummer 2026, possibly aligning with Money in the Bank, SummerSlam season, or even the build to Survivor Series. The most important takeaway is certainty. The mystery has ended. The road to recovery is now structured, and one of WWE's brightest stars is officially on track to reclaim her place at the top. These narratives, Jade's looming WrestleMania decision, the Chamber's stacked lineup, the subtle teases involving Rhea, the slow-burning Wyatt Sicks saga, and Bianca's long-awaited surgical update, collectively paint a picture of a Smackdown brand rich with possibility. The women's division remains the strongest it has ever been, filled with generational talents ready to collide, while the darker corners of the roster continue to offer unique storytelling opportunities. As February turns toward March, every segment, every stare-down, every cryptic vignette inches these stories closer to their climactic payoffs, ensuring that the road to WrestleMania 42 will be filled with drama, surprises, and moments that will resonate long after the final bell rings. The current WWE landscape, particularly on Smackdown, remains buzzing with layered storylines that are building toward WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas this April. Jade Cargill's reign as WWE Women's Champion continues to dominate discussions, as the company has yet to lock in her high-profile defense on the grandest stage of them all. Since capturing the title from Tiffany Stratton at Saturday night's main event in November 2025, Jade has defended it sporadically on live events, against opponents like Mission, BFAB, and even Bayley, but her first televised title defense came only recently against the powerhouse Jordynne Grace. That match showcased Jade's explosive athleticism and strength, culminating in her signature jaded finisher for the victory. Yet the bigger question persists: who will step up as a WrestleMania challenger? Creative discussions behind the scenes indicate that plans for Jade's WrestleMania match remain fluid and undecided. Multiple high-profile names are being floated internally, with Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton emerging as frequent considerations. Charlotte, a multi-time champion with a storied WrestleMania history, would bring veteran savvy and technical prowess to clash with Jade's raw power, creating a generational showdown. Tiffany Stratton, the The woman Jade dethroned for the title offers a revenge narrative laced with arrogance and flashiness that could elevate the bout's drama. Originally, there were hopes for a dream matchup against Bianca Belair. Their former tag team partnership from 2024 made this a tease long-term story, but Bianca's ongoing injury issues have shifted priorities. Reports emphasize that while these options are pitched, nothing is finalized, and Triple H is reportedly weighing various directions to ensure the match feels massive and fitting for WrestleMania scale. This uncertainty ties directly into Liv Morgan's prolonged decision-making process after her victory in the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble. Liv earned the right to challenge any women's champion of her choice, and she has milked the suspense masterfully. She has appeared across both Raw and Smackdown, confronting both Stephanie Baker, Women's World Champion on Raw, and Jade Cargill, dropping cryptic hints without committing. On a recent Smackdown, during Jade's defense against Jordynne Grace, Liv sat ringside with Dominic Mysterio in a staged Valentine's Day dinner setup, complete with table, candles, and playful banter that contrasted sharply with the intense in-ring action. Post-match, Jade approached Liv directly, asserting that choosing her would mean stepping into the championship spotlight at WrestleMania. Liv's response was a sly smile and no definitive answer, keeping the door open for either path. The prevailing belief among fans and insiders is that Liv will ultimately select Stephanie Baker for a classic heel versus babyface dynamic. Liv's manipulative, opportunistic style against Baker's intense, hard-hitting approach. This would free up the SmackDown side for the Women's Elimination Chamber match on February 28 to determine Jade's opponent. The Chamber lineup is already loaded. Tiffany Stratton qualified early via triple threat, showcasing her resilience and star quality. Rhea Ripley dominated her qualifier against tough competition, proving her dominance. Alexa Bliss earned her spot with cunning victories, adding psychological depth. Additional qualifiers like Julia have been mentioned in recent programming, rounding out a field capable of producing a credible, high-stakes winner. The February 28th event serves as a clear deadline. Its victor almost certainly heads to WrestleMania to face Jade, ensuring a blockbuster regardless of who emerges. A particularly intriguing tease came during the February 13th Smackdown episode. Backstage, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky were chatting when Jade Cargill walked up, leading to an intense, wordless stare-down between Jade and Rhea. The moment was brief but electric. Two towering, physically dominant forces sizing each other up before Jade moved on to her match. With Rhea already qualified for the Chamber, this encounter feels prophetic. Should Rhea win the Chamber, a Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley match at WrestleMania would be a dream collision. Two Amazonian athletes trading power moves, high-impact spots, and believable intensity. The visual of them standing toe-to-toe would make for iconic WrestleMania imagery, and their styles would mesh perfectly for a match that could main event or come close. Even if Rhea doesn't win, the stare-down plants seeds for future rivalries, keeping the women's division feeling interconnected and unpredictable. On the injury front, Bianca Belair's situation has seen significant development, but also confirmation of further delays. The EST has been sidelined since WrestleMania 41 in April 2025, when she suffered a severe broken knuckle in a triple threat match involving Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. The injury happened when Rhea landed awkwardly across Bianca's hand during a top rope sequence, crushing the knuckle joint. Initial plans call for non-surgical healing with an 8 to 12-week recovery estimate, but complications, persistent swelling, limited mobility, pain, and stalled rehab stretched the absence to nearly 10 months. Bianca stayed relatively quiet on specifics, sharing motivational posts and family moments but avoiding direct timelines. That changed recently when she announced on Instagram that corrective finger surgery was scheduled for February 16, 2026. She posted simply "finger surgery tomorrow" with a praying emoji, signaling the necessity of the procedure to address lingering damage, realign the joint, and clear scar tissue. The surgery took place as planned, and follow-up updates showed Bianca already starting physical therapy sessions with hand specialists. She shared glimpses of early rehab work, emphasizing her determination to return fully recovered. Recovery from this type of knuckle joint surgery typically spans several phases. Initial immobilization for a few weeks, followed by gradual therapy to restore range of motion, strength, and function. For wrestlers who rely on gripping, lifting, and impact resistance, full clearance often takes 12 to 16 weeks or longer in complex cases. Given the prior healing struggles, Bianca's timeline likely points to a return no earlier than late spring or early summer 2026, potentially aligning with Money in the Bank, SummerSlam build, or even Survivor Series season. The surgery removes the uncertainty that had loomed, confirming she's on a structured path forward. While it rules out a WrestleMania 42 appearance, a matchup with Jade had been a rumored dream scenario. It opens a door for a strong comeback story later in the year. Bianca's work ethic and fan support make her return one of the most anticipated moments on the horizon. Shifting to the darker side of Smackdown, the Wyatt Sicks saga with Solo Sikoa and his MFT faction drags on with sporadic but eerie developments. The group, Uncle Howdy leading Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, Nikki Cross, and Eric Rowan, debuted spectacularly 2 years ago with cinematic flair, but subsequent booking has struggled to maintain momentum. The feud revolved around family legacy, stolen props, and power struggles, with MFT capturing the Wyatt Lantern, a symbolic heirloom tied to Bray Wyatt's legacy, and even the tag team titles in recent months. Matches have included multi-man tags and invasions, but the story often feels stretched without explosive payoffs. The February 13th SmackDown added layers. After MFT won a 10-man tag match, the Wyatts appeared in the stands, silently stalking Solo and his crew. Later, Solo found a creepy drawing in his locker room, his face integrated into the Wyatt Lantern design, a clear nod to Dexter Lumis' signature unsettling artwork from his 2022 Miz feud. Fans loved the callback, as it gave Dexter a spotlight moment and highlighted individual traits within the group. Such detail could reinvigorate the faction if WWE leans into them more consistently. Uncle Howdy's cryptic promos, Nikki's unhinged energy, Rowan's brute force, Gase's cult charisma. The Lantern remains the emotional core. Its theft keeps the feud alive, and reclaiming it feels inevitable before any pivot. MFT holding it indefinitely would undermine the Wyatt's mystique. Once resolved, future directions look limited. Major factions like Judgment Day are raw-based and fracturing internally. Rumors of Uncle Howdy pursuing the United States Championship persist, but his limited singles work since 2024 return makes that a longer build. Overall, the Wyatt Sicks potential remains high, but the current program lacks the substance to match their debut's promise. These threads, Jade's undecided WrestleMania path, Liv's teasing, the Chamber build-up, Bianca's recovery update, and the Wyatts' lingering shadows, keep SmackDown compelling. With Elimination Chamber on the horizon and WrestleMania approaching, every week adds tension, teases, and possibilities that could reshape the women's division and beyond. The road ahead promises drama, surprises, and moments that will define 2026.